I am Cheryl Wilson. I'm Executive Director of the VA 250 Commission, and it is our pleasure on behalf of the Commission and our partners to welcome you here this evening. I'd like to introduce, to start our program tonight, very special person, the Commission's Vice Chair, Senator Mamie Locke.
Thank you, Cheryl, and good evening, esteemed colleagues and friends, and welcome. As the Vice Chair of the Virginia American Revolution 250 Commission and Chair of the African American Advisory Council, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the state's dinner. As you can tell by the fine procession that brought us here, every detail of this evening and this event overall has been put together with care and deliberate detail. For that, I want to thank Cliff Fleet and team, and Chair Carla Fiorino, and board members of the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, and of course, our VA 250 Commission members and staff. I would like all Commission members that are present to stand, and I want to thank you for your commitment to this work. I'd like to welcome a number of special guests joining us this evening, including Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears, Attorney General Jason Miyares, my former colleague, Senator Tommy Norment, who I now don't have the pleasure to turn around and harass, a number of members of the Governor's Cabinet, and many special guests with whom we are honored to share this evening. We want to thank all of you for being here with us this evening. I also want to take a moment to thank our generous supporters, whose investment in the future of our shared history is invaluable. Thank you to Dominion Energy, Town Bank, CoStar, Centera, Cable Foundation, Landmark Foundation, Richard S. Reynolds Foundation, and Jean and Rob Estes. Thank you so very much for all of your good work. And if you happen to look up during the processional, you might have noticed the presence of one of our newest partners, Drone Up, which is pioneering drone delivery of food and medical supplies in remote areas. Thanks to their partnership, we'll be able to share with you aerial videos of this evening's special event and many events to come. So I hope you weren't doing anything strange in the procession. Please join me in offering a very special thank you to all of our supporters. Thank you. This evening, as we gather to share a meal and good company, I want to acknowledge the importance of inclusivity and understanding the diverse perspectives that shaped our nation's story. To open our dinner with a blessing that reflects that diversity, I'm honored to introduce Chief Stephen Atkins. Chief Atkins chairs the VA 250 Commission's Tribal Nations Leadership Advisory Council and is a respected leader within the Chickahominy Indian tribe. I would ask, as we give thanks this evening, we reflect on the original inhabitants of this land and their enduring legacy. After Chief Atkins offers a blessing, Jamie Boskett will introduce our first speaker, historian Danielle Allen. Please feel free to enjoy your salads. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Chief Stephen Atkins.
Good afternoon. I don't know why Senator Locke cast a glance at me when she talked about people acting strange. Anyway, this afternoon, I do bring you greetings from the sovereign nations of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Virginia's 250th commemoration on the American Revolution provides an excellent forum for us to share the history of this land we call Turtle Island, specifically here in this part of the country that we call Sino Camaco. The sovereign nations understand that our history predates 1607, 1776, by thousands of years. However, we are referring to the history recorded by the dominant culture of this occupied land. The history of black and brown people has been skillfully and artfully excluded from the textbooks our students pore over every day. The advisory councils to the 250th will ensure our story is told in the celebrations that lead up to and beyond 2026. I believe there's a strong hunger and passion to hear these stories and learn about this history that has been held hostage for well over 250 years. I would advise state boards of education across this nation to fasten their seatbelts and get ready, because the tax-paying public will demand their dollars be used to ransom and teach the history of black and brown people. History is there. All we need is the will to teach it. So I firmly believe an outgrowth of this celebration will lead to the ransom of that history. So now let's go to the Creator in prayer. And I would offer to you this prayer, regardless of your faith. I happen to be a Christian, but this prayer will let you identify with the deity that you worship. Mushe Wanato, Chesketa Kwak, Woshawa Womananut. Great Spirit, loving Father of all nations, we come as an affirmation of your love, mercy, and grace. We thank you for your tremendous blessings, including the meal that we're about to enjoy. We thank you for the hands that prepared it, for Mother Earth that let it grow and prosper. So now I'd say, let us look to the east, where the sun, which we call the Great Spirit of Light, ushers in a new day, replete with renewed hope and possibilities. Hope for a union that recognizes steps to perfection must include building blocks of inclusion and the will to surmount the challenges this nation faces as it struggles to preserve, protect, and grow this beacon of light that we know as democracy. Great Spirit, continue to illuminate our paths as we embrace new possibilities, and thank you each day for the gift of a new day. Let us look to the north and invite the Great Spirit of love to embrace and instill in us courage as we face the cold winds of indifference, the cold winds of hate and evil that would seek to destabilize that foundation of sound principles and ideals laid by the statesmen we call our forefathers 250 years ago. Equip us to replace hatred with love. Move us to understand the significance of being made in your image, an image of love and goodwill. Cause us to hold hands and move forward through life, turning obstacles into possibilities, and surmount the challenges we face for the common good. Let us look to the west and embrace the Creator's great life-giving spirit. As the sun goes down in the west, let us pause to thank God that we were able to enjoy the gift of another day. Cause us to know that we too will face our own sundown. Let us do the work you've assigned us to do with dignity, humility, humanity, and love. Let us not dwell on missed opportunities or lament the past. Rather, let us learn from our missteps and face the West with with needed course direction and meet the dawn with renewed courage, energy, and purpose. Finally, let us look to the south and invite the great spirit of creation into our midst. Oh, great Creator, we need only to look outside to see the wonders of your handiwork as we witness the colorful blooms of spring. Send warming, soothing winds and awaken us, even as you awaken Mother Earth each spring. Render our minds fertile while seeding them with compassion, hope, and energy equal to the task before us. Father, creator of the web of life, cause us to understand that while we are mere strands in the web of life, all of us are vital in maintaining the integrity of the web. Whatever we do to this web of life, we do to ourselves. Great Spirit, we seek your blessings over this gathering over the next couple of days. Ahoy.
Thank you, Chief, for your inspiring words, and good evening, friends. My name is Jamie Boskett. I have the privilege of serving as the president and CEO of the Virginia Museum of History and Culture, the oldest museum in the Commonwealth of Virginia, one of the oldest in this nation. In fact, founded proximate to the 50th anniversary of our nation. So we've been at this for some time and have assembled one of the great American history collections just up the road in Richmond. I'm also pleased to serve as a member of the Virginia 250 Commission and also to play a role, albeit a small one, in the planning of this wonderful gathering for all of us from across the country. Tonight, I also have the delightful task of introducing our first speaker, Dr. Danielle Allen. Dr. Allen is a seasoned leader, public policy and public affairs expert, a national voice on democracy and civic engagement, and a distinguished academic and author. She is passionate about our nation and its work to renew and to progress. Currently, the James Bryant Conant University professor and director of the Allen Lab for Democracy Renovation at Harvard Kennedy School's Ash Center, Allen co-chaired the Commission on the Practice of Democratic Citizenship, formed to explore how best to respond to the weakness and vulnerabilities in political and civic life in our nation. Its final bipartisan report, Our Common Purpose, Reinventing American Democracy for the 21st Century, was released in June 2020. Allen is the author of several books addressing the broad history and personal significance of justice and democracy, including Our Declaration, a reading of the Declaration of Independence in defense of equality. Wonderful read if you haven't already, and of course, particular relevance for our gathering this year and the celebration we all plan together. Our Declaration reaffirms the continuing relevance of America's founding text, and ultimately, it very thoughtfully reveals what democracy means to us and what it asks of each and every one of us. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please join me in welcoming Dr. Danielle Allen.
Good evening, friends. I do know some of you are not, as of yet, eating your salads, so I do hope you will. You know, it's a dangerous thing to invite a professor up to the lectern before you've had your main course. So I will do my best not to stand between you and your main course. I want to say thank you, first of all, to Cheryl and Jamie, Chief, Senator, for launching this evening in such a beautiful fashion. Really appreciated your words. It's an honor to be here with all of you. I've been on a journey with the Declaration of Independence for the last 25 years, and I'm going to share something about that journey tonight. My hope mainly is to lift you up yet further. Your work is already all the elevation that you need. Your work is inspiring to the rest of us. We are grateful for it. So as I share my own journey, it's really to say thank you and to encourage you on. 2 more years to go, and you can do it. Okay. So let me just back up for a moment and tell you a little bit more about who I am so you know who's speaking to you. I'm a combo, as you heard, of Harvard prof and democracy advocate. When folks ask me what I work on, I always give them the same answer. Democracy, past, present, and future, with no question mark on the end of that, as far as I'm concerned. Thank you. That's a commitment I come by super honestly, like everybody here. It's a matter of my basic family inheritance. I'm lucky I come from folks who have loved and fought for democracy for generations. On my dad's side, my granddad helped found one of the first NAACP chapters in northern Florida in the 40s. And everybody here knows how hard that was, how dangerous that was, how much he was taking his own life in his hands because he believed in empowerment as a bedrock for human thriving. On my mom's side, my great-grandparents helped fight for women's right to vote. So my great-granddad marched with suffragettes on Boston Common in 1917. So on both sides of my family, I come from people who were often told that something was impossible. Social equality for African Americans in the South was impossible. Or women having the right to vote was impossible. Their response was, no. Not only not impossible, but necessary. And the only question is how. And that is the same spirit, I believe, as can and should inspire us as we celebrate the 250th. For me, the Declaration is a source in itself of exactly that kind of inspiration. The question of something being necessary, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary. And then the question is how? How to do this incredible thing that they laid out to attempt. Now, I said I've been on a journey with the Declaration for 25 years thereabouts, and that's true. We all have it in some ways, but I like to think I have an extra special relationship to the Declaration. You're gonna have to arm wrestle me for this one, okay? So my story about the Declaration is that my family gave me not only the commitment to empowerment, but also the belief that education is the pathway to opening up empowerment for all. And as a young professor at the University of Chicago, I found myself frustrated with the way in which we were offering such a brilliant education to kids from well-heeled backgrounds on our campus. And yet all around us in the neighborhoods around us were curious, intelligent people hungry for learning without access to it. And I had this amazing opportunity to collaborate with the Illinois Humanities Council to establish a program for night courses, basically, for working adults, low-income adults who had fallen out of the educational system and wanted to get back into that path. The program was all about the humanities, and our goal was to give our night students, often working 2 jobs or juggling buses and lack of childcare and all of that, try to give them that same quality of education as we were giving to our University of Chicago students in the day. Now, this produced a conundrum, a puzzle. How were we going to deliver the same quality of education to night students, many of whom hadn't finished their high school degrees even, as we were giving to our well-heeled University of Chicago undergrads? My solution to this puzzle was to determine that we would sacrifice nothing in the quality of what we were teaching, but we would teach very short texts. And the Declaration of Independence is really short, 1,337 words. And for that purely instrumental reason, I began teaching it in the literature course, in the philosophy course, in the history course, in the writing course that were a part of this year-long course for low-income adults. And this was the most explosive teaching experience I've ever had. My students took me by surprise. They went to the heart of the text instantly, faster than my well-heeled, well-pedigreed, well-educated day students at the university. Why? Because the Declaration is a story. It's a story of people who have decided to change their lives. They've looked around, they've surveyed their circumstances, they've found them wanting, and they've set a new course in a new direction. My students were all there in that course for the same reasons. They had surveyed their circumstances. There in Chicago, they found them wanting. They found matters wanting with regard to their own employment prospects. They found matters wanting with regard to how the mayor was running the city, the whole picture. They understood the story in the Declaration immediately. And we spent those sessions tearing it apart, understanding it, seeing in it the powerful story of human agency. Now, many will tell you that the Declaration of Independence doesn't speak to all Americans these days. People will tell you it was written by Thomas Jefferson and he owned slaves, so how on earth can it speak to people who come from low-income backgrounds or people of color? I'm here to tell you that the text does speak to all Americans. It speaks to all Americans because it tells that story of agency. But that doesn't mean we can dismiss those questions, those concerns. They are real and serious, and we have to hear them and understand, too, the response they deserve. So as I've journeyed with the Declaration over these 25 years, the first class I taught was about 2000, I spent a lot of time thinking about this question, the issue of the case of, is it the case that the ideals were perfectly good and we just didn't realize them and we've been having to make progress over time? Or is it the case that it's all just flawed from the beginning and we have to throw the whole thing out, right? Those are often the two poles of opinion we have in our country when we think about our history. And in this hard time with the work that you're doing, you all know that you're wrestling with exactly that dilemma, these poles of opinion about our history. And what I want to suggest to you is that actually there's another way to think about the relationship between what was achieved and what failed at the very beginning, the origins of our country. They made mistakes, our founders did. They did great things and they made mistakes. And both of those things can be true at the same time. But I want you to hear, in the words of the Declaration specifically, both where they succeeded and where they made mistakes. So before you get to your main course, and I'm sorry to keep you waiting for that, I want you just to listen again to that all-important second sentence of the Declaration. I'm going to spend a wee minute on it, and then I will release you from class. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, driving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principle and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Now, you're all experts, so I won't ask you how many of you remembered the sentence was that long. But it is, and it's one sentence, and it's worth hearing the whole thing and meditating on it. It is that beautiful theory of revolution. It is that beautiful statement of our basic rights. It is that beautiful statement of the fact that our rights connect to work we do to lay the foundations of government so that we can affect our shared safety and happiness. But the story of what the Declaration got right, what our founders got right, and what it got wrong are all packed right there into that sentence. So here's where it is, that final clause, okay, that tells us what our job is as citizens. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of the ends of securing our rights, it's our job to alter it, to lay the foundation on such principle, and to organize its powers in such form as to us shall seem most likely to affect our safety and happiness. That last clause there, that's the core. John Adams focused on it intensely. He was as much an author of the Declaration as Thomas Jefferson. That's one answer to the folks who think it's only about slaveholders. Adams never held slaves. He was against enslavement at this point already. He used the Declaration to end it, all right? Adams really focused on that last clause. People would write to him, like his wife Abigail, and say, This is great. These are principles that you're articulating. They're beautiful. This is exciting. But what about women? Some of you, my friends from Massachusetts who are here somewhere, I know my friends from Massachusetts are here, will remember the Remember the Ladies letter, right? What about the ladies and where do they fit? People also wrote to him and asked, where do working people fit? Where do free Negroes fit in the vocabulary of the time? And he gave them all the same answer. He said the principles apply to everybody. This notion that we're trying to protect rights, support people's safety and happiness, that's for everybody. But he wrote to Abigail and he said, but the powers of government, for that we will maintain our masculine system. Okay, so it was that split between the principles and the powers. And Abigail wrote back and she said, well, you husbands don't really have a good track record. She literally wrote that. She said, you have a history of having abused your powers over wives. So maybe this time, one more time, we'll give you a chance, but you should know that if history repeats itself, then as she put it, we women will have to foment a rebellion for voice and representation. For voice and representation. Abigail was saying, and this was an important philosophical point, she deserves credit for this in the philosophical record. Abigail was saying, you cannot protect the rights of all unless all have a chance to share in the power and how it's organized. All need voice and representation if you're going to actually successfully protect the rights of all. Absolute power corrupts, we know. And this was the point Abigail was making. So that was actually a philosophical mistake our founders make, to think that you could protect the rights of all, but not have all share in power. And it's that we've been wrestling with ever since, to try to reckon with that mistake. So they were brilliant. They delivered us something beautiful, so important for humanity, the opportunity for self-government among free and equal governing citizens. And they made mistakes. And we are their heirs. So it is our job to see the mistakes with clear eyes and fix them, to recognize the value of what they built and to preserve it, and to do it in the spirit of the Declaration. That spirit, again, where it's our job to lay the foundation on such principle and organize the powers in such form as to us shall seem most likely to affect our safety and happiness. Do you hear the humility in those words? As it seems to us, most likely. We're not sure we're right. Most likely. And then do you hear the responsibility to affect our safety and happiness? Humility and responsibility. Those are the virtues the Declaration gives us that I hope in our celebration of the 250th we can all lift up together. Thank you.